Welcome to the Rules and Kits Kickoff Breakout Session. You will be able to find these files, the Kickoff Breakout Session presentation files, and the links to the videos made from these presentations. Those will be on the Rocky Mountain Best YouTube channel. They will all be in the Best National Registry team workflow under files shared with your teams. And students, if you haven't yet gained access to that data, make sure your parents get you registered into the Best National Registry to create your account to access your team's workflow.
This is the 2022 Best Robotics Made to Order Robot Rules and Kits presentation for September 17, 2022.
A couple of important reminders, both of them related to the Best National Registry. Students, if you have not yet had your parents create your account in the Best National Registry, please have them help you do that. All participants are registered into the system. And students, before game day, you are to complete the Best Student Participation Survey as is explained in the section 4.1 of the Robot Performance Judging Rules. Thank you.
There is a new rule this year for Best Robotics regarding the Student Participation Survey, and it must be done before 9 a.m. on game day for a student to compete in the competition. It will be available 1 week prior to game day, and students will need to show on game day that they have completed the survey to compete. In addition to that, the engineering notebook is also a requirement as far as it being completed before competing. On game day, you need to check for the due dates for the engineering notebook with your individual hubs. So in addition to the requirement for the participation survey and the engineering notebook, we have a requirement that all team members, including students, teachers, and mentors, they must individually register in the Best National Registry prior to competing on game day. In addition to that, each team that is competing must have their robot successfully pass compliance in order for that team to compete in the competition. We will have more on compliance later in the presentation. This is a review of the mandatory and optional tasks and challenges available to the teams. All teams were required to do an engineering notebook in order to compete. The preliminary design review is optional to the teams. The critical design review is a mandatory task that has to be done. Practice day is also a mandatory task for teams to compete in. Teams can also elect to compete in the best award components. If they're going to do that, they're going to have to do a marketing presentation, a team exhibit with interviews, and a spirit and sportsmanship. The optional hub skills challenges this year will be the engineering drawings, website design, and video design. The optional national skills challenge will be the Best Simulink Design Award, 11/23 of November for the Denver Best Championship deadline.
This slide provides a little bit of additional information about optional skills challenge, both at the hub level and the national level. So regarding the process of how this works, each of the details of the rules and the score sheets are in your team workflow under separate files. And the trophies for the hub optional skills, whatever ones are made available, will be presented on the hub game day. And for the national optional skills challenge, the Simulink trophy will be presented at the Denver Best Regional Championship for our hubs. And other awards are to be determined how they will be presented.
For Rocky Mountain Best Hub Consumable Kit Game Field add-ins this year, Rocky Mountain Hub will be providing a 2.5 foot by 3 foot piece of the 18-ounce cotton duck tarp or canvas, and they'll also be providing some 2-inch squares of Velcro hook fasteners to attach to the solar panel structure. This slide is an overview of the 2023 mandatory rules and kits. The rules are located in your National Registry team workflow. Please read every section of the rules document several times, even if you are familiar with the previous year's rules, as the rules change every year. Check with your individual hub about what awards they are presenting. Everyone on the team should read and review all of the items at the bottom of this slide, especially if you are new to BEST. You'll want to read the BEST general rules all the way through. There's a lot of different topics in there. Some of them are the required events, safety rules for the pits, as well as when you're participating out on the game field, robot design constraints such as the size and weight of your robot, the materials and the construction of your robot, what kind of materials you're allowed to use and what you're not allowed to use, Be sure and assign someone on your team to check the Q&A on a regular basis. Remember, answers on the Q&A can supersede the rules. The National Registry also has your student participation survey. Each kit that you receive, the consumable and the receivable, will have a kit list in it for you to do inventory to be sure that you have everything. If you're missing anything, please let us know. You will need to become familiar with the returnable and the consumable kit contents for you to do your robot critical design review and the engineering notebook, as well as the optional challenges. This year's consumable kit has fewer parts given to you than in years gone by. Return kit list contents. Inside your return kit, when you get it, will be a kit list that you get, and the kit list will have the list of all the items that are included. Some of those items are the BEST control system kit, which includes your Cortex, your joystick, communication keys, batteries, and chargers. You get several motors, 2 large motors, 2 small motors. You get 4 servo motors, and then you get all the wires and adapters you need to hook those motors up. Inside the servo kit, you also get the hardware you need to hook your servo motors up to your robot. There is a motion kit that has the pulleys and belts needed if you want to use the motion kit. Hub provided IR sensor has 3 sensors in it and the cables you will need to hook it up. You do get pre-made metal wheel hubs in the kit, so you don't have to make them if you don't want to. The window alarm sensors have been eliminated from the kit permanently. Each team will have access to the kit usage guide. For the teams that are not familiar with how all this stuff hooks up to each other, this is a really good thing for you to look at. There's lots of pictures in there that show you how to hook things up and how they work together. So please check that out. One of the things that we have done in the return kit at a hub level is that we have already attached wires to the small and the large motors, and then we have also put a strain relief on there of the zip tie. Please do not remove these wires and do not cut the zip ties off unless you absolutely have to. This really simplifies things for the teams. They won't have to solder the wires on. All they have to do is connect the wires to the terminal blocks with a screwdriver. We have eliminated the pigtail on the Cortex, and it is now hardwired into the Cortex. We were having problems with bad connections, so we eliminated that. So you will just plug your battery directly into the connector you see coming out of the Cortex. New for this year, we have added a leash to some of the clips on the wire retainer clips on the Cortex. We did this because when we get the Cortexes back at the end of the season, the medium clip in particular is missing on a lot of the Cortexes, and we have to go out and buy those clips to replace them. And so we decided that we're going to try to keep that from happening, and that's what these leashes are for. So please do not cut them. Thank you for your help on that. This slide shows what is included in the IR sensor kit package. This year the IR sensor count is back up to 3 from 2 last year. So you will get 3 this year, and then you will get 3 6-inch servo extension cables and 3 24-inch servo extension cables. Last year the built sensor was modified for that game. This year it is no longer modified. It's back to its normal state. The sensors are static sensitive, especially the receiver. So don't handle them unless you absolutely need to, and when you're not handling them, keep them in their static bag. A few years ago, Best did everybody a huge favor and included pre-made metal wheel hubs in the kit. This has made everybody's life so much easier. You hook these metal wheel hubs up to your motors using the shaft on the motor. It goes in the middle hole of the wheel hub, and there's a set screw on the outer edge that you tighten down onto the flat spot of the shaft on the motor. These hubs must be returned to us at the end of the year as they are part of the return kit. If you do not use the 12-inch flat bar of aluminum in the consumable kit, which is what everybody used to make the wheel hubs out of, please return that to us at the end of the season. Thank you. The consumable kit list comes with a lot of items. You have a kit of donated parts from IGUS. You get plastic and metal stock, you get wood stock, you get pipes and fittings, you get various hardware of hinges and brackets, that kind of stuff. You get electrical, which has wires and switches and wire ties, that kind of stuff. You also get lots of different types of tape, duct tape, painter's tape, electrical tape, friction tape, all different kinds of tape. And then you do get wood glue and 5-minute epoxy. You will get some miscellaneous stuff like bungee cords, a bike inner tube, rubber bands, that kind of stuff. There is an approved optional item list at the very end of the consumable kit list. You can use any of this stuff you want on your robot. You just have to stay within the quantity that it shows. There's lots of things on there like golf balls, pennies, an empty soup can, things like that. So check it out. You might find stuff you want to use. And again, keep in mind that you can only use the quantities of items on the kit list to build your robot. If you do something like mess up a piece of plywood and you don't have enough, you can go out and buy a new piece of plywood that's the same size as what we gave you, as long as you don't exceed the quantity of what's listed on the kit list in your robot. Consumable kit list changes this year. The biggest change is probably with the plywood. Used to be they had 3 different sizes of plywood. They've now just got it down to 2. The first size can be from 1/4 inch up to 1/2 inch plywood. It can be 5 plies maximum. It can be any grade, soft or hardwood. This year, Front Range Best is giving out 1/2 inch plywood and Rocky Mountain Best is giving out 3/8. On the other side of plywood, it can be from 1/10 inch up to 1/4 inch, 3 plies maximum. It can be any grade, soft or hard. And Front Range Best is using 1/4 inch and Rocky Mountain Best is using 1/5. The 1/2 inch aluminum round, the 24 inch long round one, has been returned to the kit this year. 1/2 inch pipe, PVC pipe, has been eliminated from the kit temporarily for this year. So that would include T's and elbows and the pipe itself. On the consumable kit list contents, still out this year is the 1/4 inch thick polypropylene sheet. As I mentioned before, 1/2 inch PVC fittings and pipe is out, and 1 inch PVC fittings and pipe is also out. The extension spring is also out, and the universal bike cable. As far as the consumable kit and the IGUS kit are concerned, this year the number of parts in the IGUS kit has returned back to what it previously was. The only change in some of them this year, you may see a gray energy chain instead of a black one. Consumable kit info. At the end of the season, when you're returning your empty totes that all your consumables came in, it would be great if you could return any unused consumable parts in the tote and also put them inside the original bags or boxes or whatever they came in when you return them to us. If you should need to get replacement consumable items, say you damage something or cut something wrong and you need to get a replacement, the rules, the general rules section 1.3.2.2 has guidelines about that. You can contact the hub. On your kit list in your consumable tote, there is contact information as to who to contact if you need to get anything replaced. You can also go out and purchase things that are like the ones that we gave you, as long as you do not use more than what's on the kit list when you make your robot. Thank you. The software that you will be given this year to help you build your robot is SolidWorks, MATLAB, and Wolfram. Let's talk a little bit about kit kindness for the returnable kits. Please do not paint, use tape, glues, adhesives on any of the return kit items. Only blue painter's tape is allowed on return kit items except for the joystick. There are no tapes of any kind allowed on the joystick. Please do not sit on the kit totes that everything comes in. We've had situations where they get broken from people sitting on them. If you see somebody sitting on one, please ask them nicely to sit elsewhere. Thank you. The small motors that come in the kit have gears in them that are susceptible to breaking. So if you have an application on your robot that needs a lot of torque, the large motors have far more torque, and that's the motor you would want to use in that application. If you're using a motor and it doesn't have enough torque to do whatever you're asking it to do, then you need to change the design of your robot. In the consumable kit, you will get a set of motor mounts, 2 mounts for the small motors and 2 for the large motors. When you take them out of the box, they will be completely flat as shown in this picture. You do not want to use them completely flat. You need to bend them so that they have structure to them, so they don't bend when you hook them up to your robot. You're only going to get one chance to bend these. It's aluminum, it's very soft. If you start bending these back and forth, they will snap in half and then you won't be able to use them. So you need to figure out before you start bending them how it is you want them bent and come up with a plan so that you don't have any problems. The two large motors have RF shields on the outside of them. Please do not remove these. We've made a modification to the terminal blocks in the return kit. On one side of the terminal block, the wires are put in with caulk to keep them from flexing and bending. They tend to snap, the wires do, if they get too much flex to them. As part of kit kindness and for also the dependability of your robot, before you use your robot, you're going to want to go through and take a small screwdriver and make sure all of these screws, the small flatheads that are there on all the terminal blocks, are tight. Okay, that's enough of that. This slide shows what happens when you have bad connections or shorted connections going to the motors. So you want to be sure those are all secure and that your wires are not frayed or touching each other. This shows that a motor controller got fried from such things happening. This slide shows how to connect a large motor, a servo motor, motor controllers, and a wireless key and a battery up to each other. And in this slide, you'll notice that the wireless key that's here is black in color. The new ones are white. It also shows where to disconnect a battery. Do not try to do it at the pigtail as it's been eliminated. It is now hardwired into the cortex. The servo motors that you get in the kit, you get 4 of them, are very low in torque and they have nylon gears in them. The gears strip very easily. So you need to take care when designing your robot that you're not asking more of the motor than it's capable of doing. The other way that these gears get broken, as well as the top case on the servo motor, is when you're driving around with your robot and you run into something with your claw, that force gets transmitted right into the servo motor and it makes the gears break. So please try not to run into anything with your claw. Included with the servo motors, you will get a servo mounting hardware kit that comes with screws and grommets. These work really well to mount your motors with, so take advantage of them. Please use them. Motion kit kindness. The only part of the motion kit you are allowed to modify is the 3-foot strip belt. There is another belt in the motion kit, a small loop belt. You are not allowed to modify that or any other components in the motion kit. Please return all parts of the motion kit at the end of the season when you are done. Thank you. More motion kit kindness. This slide shows some examples of things that we have had in the past of teams modifying parts of the motion kit, which you're not allowed to do. The only part you're allowed to modify is that 3-foot strip belt. But you can see where they've glued chunks of the belt onto other parts of the motion kit, and they have drilled on other parts and cut them. These will not pass compliance. So if you do this and bring your robot to compliance, we'll find it, and then you won't be able to compete with your robot built this way, and you will have to go and change it. We've talked a little bit about how motors might not have enough torque to do whatever you're trying to do. One way to overcome this is to use the motion kit. The motion kit will multiply the amount of torque that a motor has. To do that, you would hook up your motor to the small drive pulley in the motion kit using either the shaft of the motor or your own shaft that you've made out of the 1/4-inch steel round. If you make the shaft out of the 1/4-inch steel round, you're going to have to put a flat spot on it because the drive pulley has a flat spot in the middle of it, and otherwise you won't be able to attach it properly. This slide also shows using a tensioner, using the idler on the motion kit so that you can adjust the amount of tension on the belt. If you use the tensioner, or the idler I should say, you will need to use the 1/4-inch steel round for the idler to rotate around. In Kit Kindness, we talked a little bit about servo motors and how if you drive around with your claw or your gripper open and you run into something, that shock wave goes right down into the servo motor and it breaks the gears, and it also breaks the top case. So don't drive around with your servo gripper open all the way. Close it. That will help with keeping the motors from being broken. Be sure and get your robot batteries and your joystick batteries charged up overnight before you come to practice day and game day, so that you're not in a panic when you show up that day. It's a good idea for the teams to bring an extra 6 AAA batteries as backup for the joystick batteries that you can put in there if your AAA batteries die on you and you don't have time to charge them. You cannot bring extra robot batteries with you to the competition. The 7.2 volt robot batteries, you are issued 2 of them with the kit, and you have to use the ones that you are given. Inside each kit, the consumable and the returnable, you will get a kit list inside the totes for your use. At kickoff, the lead teacher or mentor from your team will need to sign the kit agreement form to get the kit. If you want to keep your kit past game day, you will need to request a loan extension. We have the forms available for that at game day in the pits. If you are an out-of-town team and you are not going to compete in regionals or go on beyond game day, we ask that you turn in your kit at the end of game day. It just makes it easier on everybody to track the kit down. I hope you have found this presentation useful. Thank you.
And a quick reminder that you can see the breakout session presentation files in your Best National Registry team workflow files shared with your teams, as well as links to the videos made from all the kickoff presentations.